If you're new to this story, please check out the playlist in the description below, and feel free to start from the beginning. In a quiet chamber in the Galactic Council headquarters, Varro watched as the hollow comlink flickered to life. The familiar figure of Zorvan, the proud Veritan rebel leader, materialized before him. The striking facial markings of the Veritan race were accentuated by the glow of the hollow projector, but it was Zorvan's eyes that held Varro's attention. They reflected a determination Varro remembered from their shared past. Zorvan began, his voice carrying an uncharacteristic edge of urgency.
We need to unite, Varro. My strength has grown considerably since our paths diverged. I started with 5 Veritan cruisers. Today I command 30 ships, and my forces number over 100,000. Veritans, yes, but also individuals from races sympathetic to our cause.
The revelation took Varro aback. He had known Zorvan was amassing power, but this was far beyond the Council's estimates. A fleet that size, if handled correctly, could be a significant asset against the Drac.
I understand your initial reaction,
Zorvan continued, reading Varro's surprise.
It was necessary to keep our progress discreet. But now, with the Drac threat looming over us, I propose an alliance.
Varro couldn't believe what he was hearing. Zorvan was offering to bring his rebel forces to fight alongside the Galactic Council, but alliances always had a price.
And in return?
Varro asked, already anticipating the answer.
Amnesty,
Zorvan replied simply, his eyes burning with resolve.
For me, my commanders, and my soldiers.
It was an audacious demand, but Varro could see the strategic benefits of Zorvan's offer. The Veritans' forces were considerable, and more importantly, they were ready to fight. But the Council, and more specifically Solane, would not be easily convinced. Zorvan's image faded from the comlink, leaving Varro alone with his thoughts. The proposal was risky, and he wasn't sure it was a gamble the Council was willing to take. But as he considered Zorvan's words, he knew they didn't have many options left. If they wanted to stand a chance against the Drac Dominion, they might have to accept Zorvan's help, however unpalatable the idea might seem. Varro sighed, staring at the blank comlink. The challenges ahead were monumental. They had a formidable enemy approaching and an unpredictable ally offering assistance. But first he had to convince Solane, and that, he suspected, would be the most challenging task of all. The temptation of Varro. Even as the transmission from Zorvan ended, the screen flickered again. Varro stiffened, recognizing the distinctive Veritan insignia that appeared. It was another message from Zorvan, this one private, addressed solely to him.
Varro.
Zorvan's voice filled the room, strong and compelling as ever.
I knew you back when you were a captain, a warrior. I've watched you turn into a diplomat, playing peacemaker amongst the Council. But we both know you were meant for greater things.
Images began to flood the display footage of Zorvan's fleet, 30 Veritan cruisers gleaming under distant stars, and a throng of mixed species, all ready to pledge their allegiance to Zorvan's cause. The magnitude of Zorvan's forces was impressive, and the hidden implication was clear. They could be Varro's to command.
I need strong leaders, Varro. People who understand our ways. I ask you to return to your roots, stand with us. Remember your past glory, Varro. It can be yours again.
Varro watched, torn between loyalty to the Council and a longing for the old days of honor and bravery that Zorvan promised. He had been a respected captain, a warrior. The offer was tempting, playing on his nostalgia for the past and a yearning for respect and recognition. But he was a councilman now, bound by duty and loyalty to the Council and the peace they represented.
Zorvan,
he replied after a moment of silence, his voice steady.
I respect your cause, and I understand your motivations, but my place is with the Council.
But even as he refused, Varro found himself revisiting the images of Zorvan's growing force, a thought lingering in his mind. What if he could reclaim the glory of his past, stand strong against this new threat? What if he could be more than just a diplomat? Inside the Galactic Council's war room, the atmosphere was tense, electric. The room, usually reserved for diplomatic meetings, had been hastily converted into a makeshift hub for war preparations. Holographic displays filled the air, showing intricate diagrams, data streams, and real-time intelligence reports. At the room's center, a group of high-ranking officials and military experts huddled around a large table, their faces etched with concern.
Ancient, massive, and terrifyingly powerful.
A scientist began, his voice echoing in the room as he gestured towards a model of a Drac ship.
Their size gives them formidable defenses and destructive firepower. Their weapon systems, from what we've managed to analyze, are unlike anything we've encountered.
Nods of agreement echoed around the table. The data from the Icarus encounter had provided invaluable insights into the Drac technology. Their ships were vast, slow-moving fortresses in space, their weapons capable of obliterating planets.
But their size is also their weakness.
Another voice chimed in. A seasoned captain known for his strategic acumen pointed at a graph showing the Drac ship's speed.
They may have extraordinary firepower, but they lack in speed. Our hyperspace drives operate at a pace they cannot match.
Murmurs filled the room as this new information sunk in. The Icarus had managed to escape by exploiting this very weakness. They couldn't outgun the Drac, but they had outrun them. The Drac's slow, lumbering nature might be their undoing. The mood in the room shifted subtly, a faint glimmer of hope emerging amidst the apprehension.
They have smaller fighter craft too, but again, their speed is low, limited to local sorties and defense.
The captain continued, directing their attention to another display. The model of a Drac fighter was significantly smaller than the colossal ships, but their design spoke of the same brutal efficiency.
But make no mistake,
He warned, his gaze sweeping over the assembled officials.
They are planet killers, these Drac. If we allow them to get within striking distance of our worlds, the consequences would be catastrophic.
The scientist added,
Moreover, it will take them months to mobilize their forces to our territories. We have a window, albeit a small one, to prepare ourselves. If we're smart, if we're fast, we can turn their weakness against them.
As the meeting progressed, the threat of the Drac Dominion began to crystallize in the minds of everyone present. The Drac were a formidable foe, their ships literal behemoths of destruction, but they weren't invincible. Their slow speed presented an opportunity, a chink in the otherwise impervious armor, and it was a chink they intended to exploit. A glimpse of hope. Attention in the war room shifted as the lights dimmed, and a holo recording from the Icarus flickered into view. The bridge of the Icarus was a scene of chaos. Warning lights flashed, alarms wailed, and officers shouted commands and reports, their voices strained with fear and determination. Captain Hale stood resolute at the helm, his face a mask of calm in the tempest.
Brace for impact,
He ordered, his voice rising above the cacophony just as a Drac beam crashed into their shields. The image lurched, showing the Icarus shaking violently from the impact, panels sparking and crew members tossed from their seats. Hale, hanging onto the console, barked his next order.
Return fire, hit them with everything we have.
The Icarus retaliated, launching a volley of torpedoes at the Drac ship. The audience watched as the missiles struck true, causing the Drac vessel to shudder. It was a small victory, but it brought a momentary reprieve.
We're outmatched.
Hale conceded, his eyes fixed on the enemy ship on the display.
Engineering, I need a hyperspace jump. The smallest you can manage. Just get us out of their immediate reach.
Initiating micro jump in 3, 2, 1.
The technician's voice echoed in the room as the recording showed the stars outside the Icarus's windows blurring, the ship entering hyperspace. A collective breath was drawn in the Council's war room as they watched the Icarus escape the clutches of the Drac Dominion. The recording resumed after the micro jump, showing the crew assessing the damage and initiating repairs. Hale stood before the holoscreen, his expression grim as he observed the slow-moving Drac vessels on the display.
They're moving, but they're slow. Very slow.
He observed. This revelation prompted them to launch a series of sensor sweeps, analyzing every detail they could glean about the Drac's weapons, ships, and speed.
Our speed is our advantage.
He declared, a glimmer of hope in his voice.
We can't outgun them, but we can outrun them. We'll live to fight another day.
As the recording ended, the war room was silent for a moment, the weight of the situation sinking in. The Drac's slow speed, their ship's lack of agility, provided a window of opportunity. It gave them a chance to fight, to prepare, to strategize.
From the brink of destruction, the Icarus has provided us a lifeline.
said Selene, standing tall and breaking the silence in the room.
We've learned more from this engagement than centuries of speculation. Now it's time to use this knowledge and turn the tables. The Drac are coming, but they won't find us unprepared.
The proposal to Selene. In the cool and quiet ambiance of Selene's office, Varro stood before the council leader, the weight of his recent conversation with Zorvan heavy on his shoulders.
I've spoken with Zorvan.
He began, the calm in his voice belying the tension underneath. Selene, his expression stony, studied Varro's face.
And what does our rebellious Veritan have to say?
Varro paused before responding, gathering his thoughts.
He wants amnesty for himself, his commanders, and his soldiers.
The statement hung in the air, a challenge to the council's authority. Selene's brow furrowed.
Amnesty,
He echoed, the incredulity clear in his voice.
after all he's done?
Varro nodded.
In return, he offers his forces to fight against the Drac. He has grown stronger, Selene. His fleet numbers 30 ships, his army more than 100,000 strong. Veritan warriors, men and women from sympathetic races, all answering his call.
There was a long pause as Selene absorbed this information. He moved to the window, his gaze falling on the bustling galactic council below. The enormity of the Drac threat and the audacity of Zorvan's proposition weighed heavily on him. Varro continued.
He proposes that his forces take up forward positions. They could be the buffer between us and the Drac Dominion. If we are to face these Drac, numbers will matter, Selene.
Selene turned back towards Varro, his face showing no indication of his thoughts.
Zorvan's rebellion has cost us greatly, Varro. Can we trust him not to turn on us at a crucial juncture? This amnesty, it's a big ask.
Varro nodded, his gaze steady on Selene.
I understand your concerns, Selene, but this is a different kind of war we're facing, an enemy like none we've ever encountered. If we don't unite now, there might not be a council or a rebellion to argue about later.
Selene was silent for a moment, his gaze thoughtful.
You're suggesting we ally ourselves with a rebel with a traitor to face an alien threat?
Yes,
Varro affirmed, standing tall.
because I believe it is the best chance we have.
There was a lengthy pause as Selene stared at Varro, a battle of wills playing out in the silence. Then, slowly, Selene nodded.
All right, Varro. I'm willing to consider this alliance, but not blindly. I need to talk to Zorvan myself, see the sincerity in his eyes.
Varro breathed a sigh of relief, a tense knot uncoiling in his chest.
I'll set up a meeting.
Selene nodded, his gaze shifting to the vista beyond his window, his mind undoubtedly weighing the high-stakes gamble they were about to undertake.
The Drac are coming, Varro, and they won't find us unprepared.
As Varro exited Selene's office, the weight of his conversation with Selene heavy on his shoulders, he couldn't help but wonder about the upcoming meeting between Selene and Zorvan. This was uncharted territory, a perilous path they were embarking upon.
It had to work.
He thought to himself.